This presentation is titled The Nature of Stuff. This presentation will give you a basic overview of the different types of stuff or matter. And since chemistry is the study of the physical and chemical properties of stuff or matter, an overview of what matter actually is seems like a good place to start. Matter is anything that has mass and occupies space. Some of you might be wondering about mass, like what is it? The official definition includes the word inertia, which is a measure of how difficult it is to get something moving, or once something is moving, how difficult it is to get it to stop. Something with a lot of mass would be very difficult to push and get moving if it were at rest. If it was moving, it would be very difficult to get it to stop. Mass is sometimes confused with weight, but weight is really a measure of how mass is influenced by the pull of gravity. So for example, if you were to go to the moon and step on a set of scales, your weight would only be 1/6 of what it is here on Earth. That's because the gravity on the moon is only 1/6 the gravity that exists on Earth. So you were pulled down onto the scales with only 1/6 of the pull. However, you still have the same mass whether you're on the moon or the Earth. That doesn't change. If I were to put you on a set of ice skates and try to push you across an icy pond, it would be just as difficult to push you, get you to move on the moon as it would be on the Earth. Matter can be classified into two broad categories. Matter can either be a mixture of pure substances or a pure substance. So what's the difference? A pure substance has a definite composition and it has a fixed set of physical and chemical properties. Water is a good example of that. It has a definite composition. When you chemically break it down, it's composed of 8 parts oxygen to 1 part hydrogen by mass. It has a fixed set of physical properties. It's an odorless, colorless liquid at room temperature, which is understood to be 20 degrees Celsius. It boils at 100 degrees Celsius, freezes at 0 degrees Celsius, has a density of 1 gram per cubic centimeter, requires 4.184 joules of heat energy to raise its temperature by 1 degree Kelvin. Those are all examples of physical properties of a pure substance. Water's chemical properties include being really good at dissolving many different things like sodium chloride or sugar. If I run an electric current through water, it will break down into hydrogen and oxygen gas, the substances from which it's made. If I throw a piece of sodium into water, it will release a great deal of energy and produce an explosive gas, hydrogen. A mixture, on the other hand, is just a combination of pure substances like salt water, which is just a mixture of sodium chloride dissolved in water. It has no definite composition. I could dissolve a lot or a little salt in a given amount of water. It has no fixed properties. For example, its density will vary based on how much salt I dissolve in the water. Its freezing point and boiling point will vary based on the amount of salt I dissolve in the water. The chemical properties may be totally different than either pure substance alone. Mixtures can be separated into pure substances by using physical means. For example, if I wanted to separate the salt from the water in the mixture, I would simply place the mixture into a pan, place it on a stove, and apply heat. After a while, the mixture would come to a boil, and the water would vaporize or change into a gas, leaving the salt behind. Mixtures come in two types. There's the heterogeneous mixture. These do not have a uniform composition. Sometimes I call them chunky in their composition, because oftentimes it's like a solid component in a liquid component. So you've got two different phases, a solid and a liquid, or it could be a gas and a liquid, or it could be a gas and a solid. An example would be orange juice with pulp. Oftentimes these types of mixtures, the heterogeneous ones, can be filtered to separate the components from each other, the solid from the liquid. Homogeneous mixtures, sometimes known as solutions, are smooth throughout. They have a uniform composition throughout. An example would be orange juice without pulp, or salt water, or something like that. To separate these substances requires something other than a filter. For example, you could heat the mixture and get one of the components to vaporize, leaving the other component behind. Pure substances, on the other hand, can be classified into either elements or compounds. Elements cannot be chemically separated into anything simpler because they are composed of only one type of atom. Compounds, on the other hand, can be chemically broken down into simpler substances. For example, if I pass an electric current through water, which is a compound, it breaks apart into the two elements from which it's made, hydrogen and oxygen gas. This concludes my presentation on matter, or stuff, and I hope you've learned a couple of things. Bye.